Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a psychic reading on Adolf Hitler. This is going to be a psychic slash mediumship reading, what I get from his soul, what I get from my spirit guides and angels, and what is coming through exactly, and what getting into his mind, what was the mind of Hitler and what caused him to do all of these horrible things to innocent people. Those of you that would be wondering who he is, I'm not going to go into a lot of history. He was a leader of the Nazi Party. He was a dictator. He was a politician, and he was of German descent. And he was responsible for the Holocaust. For those of you that are not aware of what the Holocaust was, it was basically a lot of people that were taken there, non-Jewish. There was a lot of, homosexuals, and if you were Jehovah Witnesses, and just a lot of other people that of the other nationalities or religious preferences that were taken into these concentration camps, and they were abused, they were starved, they were killed. A lot of these people that survived the Holocaust did talk about it, and a lot of them, there was pictures after the Holocaust, they were basically emaciated. So there was a lot of different tortures that are not maybe not even documented, that were done and carried out by the Nazi group. So who Hitler was, I feel like it's very important for me to go back and really talk about in this reading about his parents and who they were and how it kind of their the things that they did karmically sort of caused a lot of this, molded him into who he was as a man, as a person. So I'm going to get into the next slide here. Now this is Clara Hitler and his father Alois Hitler. I can't pronounce German names that well, so please forgive me if I did mispronunciate and you are of German descent, or you are German out there, and or you know how to speak German and you're familiar with how I pronounce his name and it's wrong. Please forgive me. It wasn't my intention, just I'm not familiar how to say that name. But I'm going to start with his dad. The dad I get was someone that suffered from a lot of depression. He was a very depressive state. I don't feel like he was mentally very stable. I get that there was a lot of things hidden and covered. I don't feel like he was a very nice individual when I tune into his soul. Very rigid in his thinking, very old-fashioned, that the women are responsible for, tending to the home, to the children. I do get there was a lot of incest in the family. This man also was someone that would be considered a child predator in today's society. He had affairs with young women that were like, that were either working for him or that were in the in the village, the city they lived in. There's a lot of secrets that were carried out. Now he was married 2 times before Clara. Clara was his last wife, and oddly enough, both of them, when you go back into history, what is out there is that they both died they became invalid. I believe that's what they put out there, but I can't sit here and confirm or deny, but I'm going to say that their deaths were not normal. They were not normal. Could have, Alois played a role in that. A lot of things back then, and this was the mid to late 1800s. A lot of things were covered up. A lot of things were just never, people didn't really autopsy back then. They really didn't go into investigative. If a person died, well, they died, that was it. And the family would take care of the body. It was just so much different than it is today in today's society. If someone dies, of course, there's a medical coroner, and sometimes there's an autopsy done if, they feel like it's necessary. But in both cases of the both wives that he had before Clara, he would have, he would have been in these relationships, and I don't feel like he really loved these women. That's so weird, but that's what's coming in from spirit when I tune into his soul. There is definitely a disconnect between him and his wives, and again, some karmic, very painful karmic lessons for him. I do feel like he would have been considered what is considered today a drug addict, because there were substances back then. You have to understand, they used a lot of substances, but they weren't considered or labeled drug addicts. But they would use cocaine, they would use a lot of other medicines, and they would call them medicines, but of course they were drugs. In today's society, it would be illegal. So I do get that he had a lot of vices that were very, very unhealthy, and this kind of led him into, who he was. And it also, I feel like it created a karmic ripple effect, being that, there is a lot of secrets and a lot of cover-ups. Like, this man didn't know who his real father was. He only knew who his mother was, obviously, but he didn't really know who his father was. What is very twisted here and very people don't really know. It's a lot of speculation, but I'm going to confirm it because I really do feel when he met Clara, I don't feel like he met her at the time when his second wife that he was with was still invalid, I believe. And so I feel like she didn't like her. She didn't like her because he met Clara when she was about 16 years old. What's very twisted here is I really do feel like they were related. So this was incest within the family. They were related. Somehow they were related. That's what I get. And I really do feel like that is the case here. So, like I said, back then, a lot of people had a lot of, incest between family members, cousins marrying, second or third cousins, but all kept within a bloodline. Again, for whatever reason, I do feel like when I get into Clara's soul, that she was someone that was very, suppressed. Her voice was suppressed. She wasn't a happy person. I feel like she had to endure a lot of knowing that this man, Alois, was not faithful to her. He would have had his affairs. He would have had this stuff, going on. So, and she wasn't a happy person at all. I don't get she was happy at all. I also get that there was a lot of abuse. Either this was, domestic, her being pushed, just a lot of abuse that she would have endured, name calling. He wasn't very nice to her. And so when Alois passed, I feel like she felt liberated in many ways, but it was short term, and I don't feel like she was really looking for love again or to really get with anyone else, because she was caring for the children and, just overall not really caring for the children. I take that back, but caring for the family. But I do feel like, it kind of, her passing affected Adolf in many ways, and he took it very much at a psychological level, kind of traumatized him. I don't feel like this. He had the father pass. The father, when he passed, had the same effect on Adolf. He really didn't feel connected to his dad. There was a lot of bad blood between them. I feel like they got into fights all the time. He wasn't someone that really liked how Alois was treating his mom, which is Clara. And so again, there would have been a lot of family issues, a lot of skeletons that Adolf found out about his father and who he was, and the association. I do feel like to a certain extent that they both knew, Clara and Alice knew that they were related. So it's not like it's any secret to them at the time. And I do feel like Adolf kind of hid that from people, but somehow people found out. In a small town, or in a city, they're going to find out sooner or later. So this has been uncovered. A lot of people speculate that they are indeed related, and I do feel that is very much the case. So Clara ended up dying from breast cancer, a very terminal illness, and at a very young age. So I really feel like her soul, was just tired, and I feel like a lot of this was just the karmic in nature. A lot of karmic bad karma. I do feel like what Alois did, kind of what he did. Like I said, I can't confirm or deny, but if he had any play in these deaths of his previous spouses, this would have created some generational junk, some bad karma, some bad curses, as people would call it today, that kind of shaped and molded and went into the family, because a lot of his siblings, a lot of the children that he had, they all died within like the ages of 60, 50, 60, and some of their children died at a very young age too. So like the bloodlines, like I said, this is like been like a ripple effect, a generational curse that kind of was created and rippled out into the Hitler family and the Hitler bloodlines, whether it was directly, Hitler or other, names like Clara's, maiden name, that family. It rippled out and ventured out into those bloodlines. So if there's any of those bloodlines that would exist today, I do feel like there are problems still plaguing a lot of these relatives that are, distinct descendants of Hitler and Alois. So now I'm going to get into Hitler and kind of discuss about him. I'm going to get into the next slide. So again, as you see here, if you look into his eyes, you can see someone who has a lot of anger. There's a lot of hate for humanity. When I tune into him, this is going to sound very, very weird, but when I look in his third eye, which is in between the eyebrows, a little bit above, on the center of the forehead, well, that's kind of close to the third eye, but a little bit above, I see the Nazi symbol on his forehead, even on this picture. Even though some of you may not see it on there, I see it, and it's more like a spiritual, like I said, clairvoyance. That's how it kind of works. My gift, I can see things. I also see a lady on the upper right hand corner in spirit, which would be his mom, that she was around him during this time that he was influencing all these parties and having all of these associations. I get from him that he was someone that had very little tolerance for people. He didn't like a lot of people. Was there, any kind of demonic influence on him, or was he just a sociopath, a psychopath? There's been a lot of studies of people that have analyzed him from Harvard, and there's been a lot of studies of people that are psychologists that have, described his behavior to be similar or allegedly be considered a psychopath or a sociopath. When I get into it from a spiritual perspective, he does have a dark soul, and I feel like a lot of this was not necessarily of his making. It was later on, but very much at his younger years, when his parents were still alive. Like I said, all that before he was born, all of that was like a generational curse, and I feel like it contributed to him. And him in particular, I feel like I said, there was abuse of some nature early on in his childhood that he would have been exposed to seeing things that maybe children shouldn't see. I feel like he witnessed abuse again of his mom. So again, there was a lot of him just not wanting to be a nice person. It was like he was emotionally void and hated anyone that was different. I don't feel like he really had, people will say that he had a religion or a certain following. I'm not familiar with Nazis or, some people call it what is the Aryan Brotherhood, or the Nazis. I'm not familiar with all of that, but I'm giving you from a psychic perspective what I get. And I do feel like he felt very close to men. There was a lot of bonding I feel like he had with men, but he ultimately wanted to strike fear into a lot of people. I do feel like there was a darkness. Apart from him being a dark soul, there was demonic influence in this. Demons are very real, and I think a lot of people here that are not consciously or spiritually awoke or awakened won't understand this. But to a certain extent, when there are demons that are possessing you or that are influencing you, it will push you to do things and kind of be disconnected. Because when I get into him, I get someone that is a very cold heart, very like killing for him was easy, or having people killed was easy for him. It was like no remorse. I don't feel like he was haunted by the victims, or let me correct that. He was haunted by a lot of the victims, and I'll get into that too. But what I'm trying to say is that when he killed them, or he had them killed, he wasn't remorseful, and he didn't feel like haunted at that time, or like he would be haunted, or there would be any repercussions from it. And I feel like once he got the taste of blood, in many ways, it was very easy to just kill people and children and just whatever. This man carried out a lot of heinous acts, very cruel acts. And I do feel to a certain extent the universe, or God, the God source, allowed this guy to really exist in our world to show us what true evil is in corporeal form, in human form, in the flesh. A lot of people have referred to him as the Antichrist. People have referred to him as the devil in himself. I don't feel like he was the devil or the Antichrist at all, but I do feel he was a very, very dark soul in the embodiment of evil here on earth. In many ways, people had to see and witness from all stages of the world and all places to really understand, and see what kind of evil can be done and carried out. I keep hearing the name Mary, Mary, Mary over and over, so I'm not familiar with who that would be, but obviously there was an association or a close person that was in spirit, and I keep seeing the letter the letter M, Mary. I keep hearing Mary, Mary, Mary as I'm doing this. So there's children, there's people, when he was alive and this photograph was taken, there's a lot of souls that were already dead, and there was a lot of people that were around him in spirit, victims. And so yes, he would have been haunted. He would have been haunted. His night sleeps, I don't feel like he was very good. He didn't have a very good sleeping pattern. Very much awakened. I feel like he also, people are gonna laugh when I say this, but he was someone that had some spiritual abilities, as crazy as that sounds, because like I said, dark souls, light workers, we all have spiritual abilities. There are people that are dark souls that retrieve their information from a dark place, and that have insight. So was Adolf Hitler psychic in many ways? Yes, he was. You can see it in his eyes. He has a very penetrated type of look. When he looks, it cuts through you, like he's like looking at you. It's very uncomfortable. Some people, have that stare that are psychics, but it's very pleasant. But when you get into him, it was like an intimidation. You can feel the vibes, the energy surrounding him, his aura, and a lot of people read differently. I use photographs to read, so having his photograph here is very easy to see a lot of things, that were around him. He was a vegetarian. That is a fact out there. So I feel like in many ways, he wouldn't eat meat because, again, I just feel like he just didn't think that it was healthy in many ways, but also he loved animals, believe it or not. I do feel like he loved animals, and I feel like in his mind, he thought that he would survive longer. This is like a classic narcissist. He was the combination of a narcissist. People would call him a serial killer, a sociopath, a psychopath. I'm not here to add labels to Adolf, because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not diagnosing him at all. But I leave that to the professionals out there that have diagnosed him or that have done case studies. What I can tell you, he was demonically influenced, and I do feel that a lot of these ideas that he had that were like led to the Holocaust and the treatment there, the rules and the guidelines, all of this was demonically influenced, because demons ultimately their goal is to break down people's free wills, their humanity, to make them scared, intimidated, and to vibrate on a level of fear, because fear is what feeds people. It not feeds people, I take that back, it feeds demons, and it gives them energy and power to exist in this world, in this reality. So again, I feel like this is what happened. Really and truly, I keep seeing visions, and I don't know if he would have tasted human blood or this was like ritualistic back then, but I keep seeing him tasting human blood. So I don't know what that was all about. It's very strange. It's very macabre when it comes in, but that's when I see a vision of him, like drinking from a chalice. So again, was there ceremonies that were done that were hidden? I definitely feel that was the case. Was there like a secret society? I do feel like he belonged to a secret society. And I do feel like he intuitively knew who he could trust and who he couldn't trust. And there was very little people that he trusted. And I really also feel and get from Spirit that he would have hated women. I know that sounds very strange on many levels, but there is this hate that he had towards women. So it explains why he didn't get married until the very end, or why he didn't really have children. Um, it's very twisted how this is coming in, but like I said, I feel like there was a lot of abuse that he would have done towards women, not really treating them as love. And I feel like this is kind of going back to when losing his mom created this split personality. He's, when I tune into him, he's suffered from a lot of different things. People would call it schizophrenia. Some people would call it split personalities. I feel like he had a little bit of everything. Also, I'm getting very much so that he hated religion. He hated Catholics. He hated the Pope at the time, or whoever, the church. I keep getting church. He hated the church in many ways. So, like I said, I'm not familiar with the Nazi movement and who they would have worshipped or believed in a religious source like God. But in many ways, he became their God. He became the embodiment of somebody that was considered to be immortal. That's why a lot of people worshipped him and really followed him. It wasn't so much just because of fear of what he would do to them, being that he was a dictatorship at the time that he took power. But I feel like he had the ability like to hypnotize people. He had that ability, and this is a spiritual ability, but a very dark one. And people were just saw him as this god, and that's what he was allowed to kind of acclimate to in this world from the universe. The universe allowed him to be here as one of these key figures in history to, again, for people to be awakened so this would never happen again. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of leaders like Stalin that, and other people today. I'm not going to name who Hitler reminds me of today, that would be, in power. But again, there's a really strong comparison. And for those of you that are out there, my soul family that is listening to this, I'm pretty sure you can make that connection. But there is a lot of glorification in people that are Nazi, that still exist. Maybe they are not so vocal about it. They still support Adolf Hitler and his teachings, or his belief systems and all of that. They are still like that. So there's a lot of dark souls that still follow him, secret societies that follow his teachings, or his way of thinking. Very twisted how this is all coming through. Very dark vibration. I get that he wasn't physically well. Like I said, years of using drugs and stuff that he would have, and drinking, even though it's documented that he didn't drink, I really feel like he did. All of this would have contributed to who he was and his condition. I feel like his heart wasn't good. He had a lot of vascular problems, breathing problems, and again, like onset of dementia. Mentally he was not right. He was not right. And again, I can't diagnose him, but that's what I get from him. And there's a lot of speculation that he committed suicide, but and that he wrote down orders and stuff like that done. you know, he's the type of person that if he was going to go out, he was going to go out fighting. I don't see him the type of person to commit suicide. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't feel like it was suicide, even though people may be up for debate. Like I said, things in history that are documented are inaccurate, and a lot of them are told to cover up what really happened, so that people think that he, did it this way. But I really don't feel like he carried out suicide. I just don't get that at all. I feel like somebody actually did this to him and killed him, murdered him. But again, it was staged to look like a suicide. So again, there's going to be a lot. And interestingly enough, it's like his body was, I believe they had said that he had given orders for it to be burned, but why, burn the body so quickly? For it not to be, later tested, etc. So, there's a lot of, but again, I don't get him to be this type of person because, like I said, he was considered what we would consider today as a narcissist. So I really don't feel like narcissist people really won't commit suicide. They love themselves too much. And like I said, when it comes to him, even though he hated a lot of people, he hated a lot of people for their preferences and who they are as people. At the end of the day, he did love himself, as narcissistic and twisted as that sounds. So again, I don't feel like he was the type to have the guts to pull the trigger and kind of kill himself, and it's just very twisted in many ways. But this man had a lot of skeletons in his closet, a lot of things that he didn't want people to know, and it just is very, very convoluted. It's so it's like no one will ever be able to really document every single thing or know the truth about every single thing, because there's so much that was omitted from history books, a lot that wasn't said. A lot of people that survived the Holocaust know the truth of what they witnessed, of the torture and, what the orders that were given and executed. But a lot of people that are, our generation and younger generations now that are being born will never truly know exactly what was going in his mind or what what type of skeletons he had. But like I said, it goes far from just what I just told you, very, very far. To a certain point, I'm just going to put this out there. The fact that he hated homosexuals so much typically could be that he was a homosexual himself, but very much so that was hidden. That part of himself was hidden. Because again, I feel like there was this close bond and relationship with men. Either it was a curiosity and made him feel dirty in many ways, but he despised a lot of people that were different than him, that he considered different from him. And I feel again like I said, when I'm channeling what I'm getting intuitively, a lot of dark skeletons to this man and this person, this soul. After his death, I don't feel like he crossed over at all. He was definitely someone that was stuck earthbound. And I do feel like there's a lot of battles that went on between him and victims of the Holocaust that died and people that died at his hand, that he would have had to face a lot of this karmically in the afterlife. So this was my psychic reading for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did like this reading, please give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Psychic Medium Ray. And if you would like to book a private reading, visit my website at www.raymondguzman.net/shop. Blessings and love and light. Have an amazing day.